Hey, Tony Gaskins here. Now, one touch on this because this is something that I pretty much deal with on a daily basis, coming from women mostly. Sometimes it's men, but I found that it's the same on both sides. And the number one thing that you have to realize with this is personal identity and really knowing yourself. And I just took that personality test, the Myers Briggs personality test, and answering the questions was a bit tough because you have days where you feel like an introvert, days where you feel like an extrovert. You have ways where you may be introverted, then ways where you may be extroverted. And it's hard to answer every question about yourself because we are nuanced, we're complex as individuals. But it's important to understand that you have to know you. And that takes time with yourself. And you have to evaluate how people respond to you, how people either run away from you or gravitate towards you, how people treat you, what role, what place do people put you in their life, and what type of people come around you and what type of people stay away from you. And you have to evaluate these things. Then you have to evaluate your personality. And in evaluating your personality, you got to look into your history and your biography, your upbringing. How were you raised? What affected you? As you're doing this, you can sit down and you can think about everything that you can remember in your life. And the things that you can remember, you should write them all down. And when you write them down, you write beside it, or even if you use another page, how it affected you. Like what happened to you or what happened for you based on that memory. For example, I remember when I learned how to tie my shoes. I looked, I was looking at somebody tying their shoes, and I watched them tie their shoes. And then I bent down and I tied my shoes. And I remember that I wasn't in kindergarten yet. I was in daycare. And being that I remember it, I had to be probably at least 4 years old. And so, what that teaches me about myself is that I am a fast learner, that I can listen to something or I can watch something and then I can duplicate it or emulate it. I remember that. I remember kindergarten having a young lady and me and my friend sharing this young lady and us getting a little handsy. What does that tell me about myself? That I pick up from what I see. I saw that around me. I saw that in magazines and I did that. It lets me know also that I am into the opposite gender. Go to the next memory. Go to the next memory. And you think about this and it shows you how you've been shaped. And in understanding how you've been shaped, that will help you understand how you're showing up in the world. So if I take you from, y'all got to forgive me, my phone is on. If I take you from, my wife will text me about that. If I take you from person to person that I talk to and give you a life coach's perspective, I will meet somebody who wants to be married. And we're talking about why aren't they married? And they could look normal, body could be normal, and then The issue may be they put themselves on a higher pedestal than society has placed them. They have a healthy self image, and their self image of themselves is higher than how other people see them based on societal constructs. So, therefore, when they meet people that's on their same level societally, they look at that person as less than, and they look at themselves as more than, and they believe they're on a higher level. Now, what that comes from, what I find, it comes from conditioning. It comes from, for some women, it's their father. Their father treated them like a princess, and he treated them like daddy's little girl, and he treated them like the world is their oyster, and they can do anything, they can be anything. They're the most beautiful, they're the smartest, they are God's gift to earth. They're the second coming. And he did that from a place of longing and a place, a void of emptiness in him. So instead of giving her a realistic view of the world and letting her know that she isn't any better than anyone else, that we all are special, we all are amazing, we all are unique, he pedestalized her and he made her feel like not everyone is on her level, and not everyone is as good as her, and not everyone is as special as her. And so she goes into the world and she doesn't see herself the way other people sees her. So everything is perfect, and that causes her to look down on others. The other time that I see this happen with women per se is when a woman has been conditioned to believe that man-made certifications and degrees and accomplishments makes her deserving of more. And she believes that having a college degree or having a home or having a high paying job means that she deserves more in life and the best of the best. And she doesn't understand that there are individuals like myself and like Mark Zuckerberg and Elon Musk and professional athletes who don't have a college degree and earn far more than she earns or than he earns, and have created far more and are far more innovative, far more creative. But she had, or he has been told that if you get the American dream or whatever country they're in, if you get society's manufactured, lab fed dream, which serves society because you are a taxpayer, you are renting your home by paying property taxes every year, you are getting degrees which trains you how to show up at a job, how to be on time, how to have time management and structure, how to receive a task, learn about the task, study the task, and then complete and pass the test. So you have a lesson, the lesson has modules. You go through each module, you read the required text, and then you remember it long enough to take the test and pass the test. That's preparation for a job. And not only does your corporation pay taxes, but you pay taxes. So he and she believes that because they have society's dream, that they deserve a certain type of person on a certain level, who looks a certain way, built a certain way, walks a certain way, talks a certain way, reads a certain way, and it creates an issue. So outside of the mindset and just not being realistic and not understanding that you're not special and that you're not, and when I say you're not special, what I mean, like from a biblical sense of how God has no respect of persons, meaning God loves everyone. And the only time that you are elevated or separated or chosen is really based on your willingness and your obedience. And that's what brings more favor to your life. But at a base level, everyone is loved, everyone is equal. And then your heart's posture is what separates what you receive in this life. So the main thing really is an unrealistic view of themselves and of the world. And, I will hear men and women say that they want someone on this particular level. And the level that they're talking about, they may be talking about someone, let's say they're talking about someone who makes millions of dollars. And that millions of dollars with a decent amount of societal beauty or looks, it makes that person look even better. And so they want someone in real life on that type of level, like a broke man's version of that celebrity. But what they don't realize is someone who looks like that and someone who earns like that, they also want someone of a certain caliber. And that's why you're not compatible in real life. So this that delusion is what I would call it. That delusion leads to loneliness because no one you meet is good enough because of the perception you have of yourself that is not rooted in reality. It's not realistic. And then on the other side of things, what I typically find is that there's just one thing. And it's not like there's one or two things, but there's not something else that makes up for it. So I was just watching a video, this online class, and the lady speaking was overweight, and it just looked like her weight looked like it was evenly spread, like in her face and her neck and her upper body. And she had a wedding ring on, and the ring looked nice. And so as I'm listening to her talk, I'm like, wow, she's married, but there are women who are very fit who aren't married. And I know that those women will look at her and say, hey, I'm like really taking care of my body and my body is banging. And then this lady is like just living her life and, you know, doing whatever she wants, and she's married. And so that is, like they say, comparison is the thief of joy, because you never know what her husband looks like, or if she's even married. If she just wears that ring, and the ring is to make her look complete, or it means she's married to God, or it means she's saving herself until marriage, or her husband could be, she could be her husband's beard. Her husband could be twice as could be twice her size. And so if she is considered overweight, he could be overweight. And so you never know. So for one, you can't compare. But two, when you're lacking in one area, there has to be another area that really makes up for it. So when I meet a lot of women who are married and they aren't the prototypical ideal body type that the world says you need to be to attract a husband. And what I find is that it's typically the woman has a realistic view of herself. So her husband is her equal, but it just could be in one way or another. So if I see a woman who is not beauty by society standards, she's not beautiful by society standards, her husband typically is not handsome by society standards, or he may have something else that is off by society standards. And she overlooked that. And she said, okay, I'm not prototypical. I'm not the prototype. I am who I am and I love myself. And this man is not the prototype, but we hit it off and we get along great. So let's make this work. And that's what I notice when I see a man or a woman who is not cut from a magazine in whatever way, their personality or their clothes or their body type, but they have a realistic view of themselves. And then the people who have like one thing that makes them different, it could be their look, or it may be their style, or it may be their personality. A lot of times there may be something off with a person's look, but then as interesting as their look is, their personality is the same way. So if you look, let's say if a person looks like a cartoon character, like I can't remember the thing name. That character in the kids cartoon, and he got a funny little look. And they have his what you call it, the filter on TikTok where the eyes are far apart. The eyes not, close enough together, the eyes far apart. If a person has that look, that's an interesting look because it's not that common. Well, if they have that look, but they're also snappy and kind of arrogant and kind of rude, that's why they remain single. Unless they meet somebody who is snappy, arrogant, and rude with an interesting look as well, and then they hit it off. And so that's what happens with this type of stuff is you have these things where y'all gotta forgive me because I got a call about this site I'm trying to develop. And they told me they're gonna write me if they could start a little early. So I got to make sure I check that. And so that's typically what I'm seeing is it's just one thing, but sometimes that thing cannot be fixed. If it's in the looks department, that thing may not be able to be fixed. So you have to make up for it in another area. So, for example, someone may have, like a woman may have a larger than normal nose. Well, that is what we call her dad's nose. And if a woman has her dad's nose, but then she also does not take care of her body, it's going to make it hard for her to meet someone who is accepting of everything because her personality is most likely going to be average. because it's hard to have an amazing personality if you've been bullied or mistreated or overlooked or forgotten about for whatever reason. So that person has to become very intentional about having a people's personality, a very warm, welcoming, fun, chill, easygoing, easy to get along personality. A personality that when he or she who has this unique look gets with somebody, meets somebody, that person feels at home. I remember there was a young lady at my high school who she had brittle bones syndrome. I think what it was called. So she was in the wheelchair, and she probably was about this big. You know, she probably was about this big. And we were in high school, and so she had a little wheelchair, and she was in the wheelchair, and but she was rude, and she would just be zooming around campus and just hitting corners, and like you walking, and she would like come up on your heels, and she, can you move? Come on, Tony, get out the way. You think because you're an athlete? And she would just zoom around. And I'm like, you know what? There are people who have that syndrome who I've seen on TikTok here recently who are actually married. I saw a guy who he has some type of issue to where he's in a wheelchair and he has some type of issue, but his wife is, she doesn't have that issue, and they're married, and his wife is actually pretty. It's not like she's this woman who was overlooked or whatever. Now, she could have went through some things and could have had a phase in her life where she was out there living her life or what have you, or maybe not. And then I was watching the Dallas Cowboys cheerleaders show with my wife. She liked that show for whatever reason. And so she watching the show. I'm kind of watching, kind of not. And there was a pretty lady from Alabama. And her husband, she was a devout Christian, virgin, saving herself unto marriage. And she prayed that to God that the first person she meets, that she really likes him. Now, she was pretty. You're going to be a Dallas Cowboy cheerleader, you typically going to look, somewhat decent. Her husband looked the complete opposite. Like, he did not look what I would call looks compatible. Like, he was average height. He was, baby fat on him, like still had all his baby fat. So meaning not a single muscle, but just an amazing personality. Like, you could tell he just has an amazing, go watch the Dallas Cowboys show. You'll see what I'm talking about. He was at a game. They was at a basketball game, and she saw him at the game, and she shot her shot. She slid in his DMs, which is against all teaching. But if you keeping your legs closed, God may do it for you. So she pulled a Ruth on her Boaz, and she shot her shot in the DM, not like, hey, I want some of you, but like, hey, how are you? Saw you at the game, would love to connect. And they connected and they hit it off and they got married. And when I tell you he's punting out of his coverage, meaning typically guys who look like him do not get girls who look like her unless the guy is from a millionaire family, which he could be. I don't know. But I don't know if she would know that. She just saw his personality at the game and how exuberant he was, vibrant he was, and she loved that. And that makes sense with her going to be a Dallas Cowboy cheerleader. So that's what I mean by sometimes we will see somebody and we're like, hold on now. You married? And you'll be like, you married and I'm single? But what you don't realize is that person's personality can make the devil smile. Like, their personality is so chill, so warm and welcoming to where You don't have to have a perfect body. You don't have to have a perfect face. You don't have to have perfect hair, perfect teeth, perfect fashion when you're an amazing person. But see, some people say, I'm an amazing person. If you say you're an amazing person, you're actually very hard to deal with. I don't want to break that to you, because that means you don't have an identity of self. A humble person, other than teaching purposes, never says they're humble. An amazing person never says they're amazing, because we don't have the gift to see ourselves through the eyes of others. So you just become, you be. So you think about, okay, how should I treat this person? How should I respond to this person? What makes a person feel good? Listening, compliments, being attentive. So you study people and you learn people. So where you're lacking in one area, you have to make up for it in another area. And personality has to be important to you. It has to be important, and you have to focus on it. And you can't look at what you think you know. That's one of the biggest mistakes people make, is they're like, well, I know somebody with a horrible personality. You have to stop comparing, because unless you live with someone, you don't know who they're married to. So I saw a lady who was, she was like really muscular. Like she was kind of like, her body was like Serena Williams times two. So it looked like muscle, but it was like really big muscle, like like a thigh bit like this, and like a hip like this. And it was a black woman. And so, and she's pushing a child in a stroller. And we were at an outlet mall. It was at, I remember it like yesterday, because we were in the Nike store. And I seen this lady, and she had a low haircut. So she had hair like mine, but probably a little bit higher. So now you have this woman who, her body is, would be on a above average size scale, because she also was like 6 foot tall. So she come from a large dad or a large parents, period. Because the average woman may be like 5'4" to 5'6". She looked like 6 foot up to 6'2", and she was full figured. Now, I did not see fat in the literal sense of the word fat, not the derogatory term. It looked like all muscle, but it was big muscle. Kind of like a more fit version of like an Olympian shot putter. You know how they have size, but it looks like strong and muscular. And y'all got to forgive me when I'm explaining this stuff, because I'm trying not to be insensitive and trying not to offend anybody, because you know how people get. Oh my goodness, people get in there. So, and she's with this man. She got on a wedding ring. He has on a wedding ring, but the man, he was like her size too. So their body was almost identical. And I believe, if I'm not mistaken, one of them, I think he had short hair like this too, but it was all blonde. It was blonde, and he was walking like this. Like, I don't know how to do it, but switching hips, what we call it. His hips were switching. Now you know what that means. When a man have blonde hair, dyed blonde hair, a black man, and he is large, like built like a NFL defensive lineman, and his hips are switching and just hand kind of flailing, you know what that means. So now it's like, oh, she has a husband and they have kids, but it appears that she might be his cover up. She might be his family acceptance card. But what he is doing when he's on the road for business or when he is on his phone or his computer, she might be surprised. And that's what I mean by you can never compare. Because if you don't live with somebody, because I hear people all the time in the comments, well, I know somebody like this, and I know somebody like that, and I know somebody like that. You don't know anything. Because if you're not in their bed between them, you don't know what they have going on. There are arranged marriages, there are fake marriages, there are cover-up marriages. So the main thing to achieve your goal of marriage, you have to focus on you. You have to learn about you. And you got to be open and you have to be honest. And you have to create a safe space. So you have to ask yourself, you have to say, okay, has anyone ever tried to give me feedback about myself? Has anyone, mother, father, brother, sister, friend, has anyone ever said, hey, you should try to be nicer? Or, hey, you should try to be more personable. Hey, you should maybe, you should work on this or work on that. Ask yourself that and try to think about it. Try to think about it. Personal example, my sister always tells me, you talk to people so mean. You talk to people so mean. You need to talk to people better. And I have also heard that at times from my wife, like, hey, you too direct. I've heard that from some of y'all. You too blunt. You too direct. So that's what I mean by really thinking about what have people told you. Like guys will be like, boy, Tony say anything, boy, Tony, hey, boy, you crazy, boy. My homeboy called me the other day about that interview that I did with the two young men in Atlanta, partly initiated, and they brought a guy on, and the guy went to raising his voice, and I leaned to the mic and I said, hey, take that bass out your voice. And my homeboy called me the other day. Hey, man, boy, I know you had that in you. Boy, I know you, man, you crazy. Man, I had to pause the video. I was laughing so hard. I was like, well, I mean, you ain't never tried me like that, bro. So you never had to see that side of me. But I don't try to be mean. I just try to be real with people. I try to be direct with people. But I had to think about that. And then I had to process it. So this is what I mean. It's not always you now. Sometimes it could be the person. So not everybody's opinion of you is valid. Let me be clear on that. Not everyone's opinion of you is valid. But when you hear the same thing from more than one person, there is some validity to it. Now, again, y'all stay out the comments. Yeah, Tony, that is true. This ain't about me. This is about you. So take my personal example and apply it to yourself and look in the mirror and take this time to look in the mirror instead of thinking about how this message applies to me, how this message applies to your mom, to your dad, to your brother, to your sister. Only look in the mirror. If you are single and you desire marriage, like your heart really wants marriage and it's not happening, you have to become very intentional about the mirror. And when you think about this and what you've heard, you got to process it. And so what I realized when I evaluated what my sister was saying, I was like, sometimes I am very direct with her and kind of harsh with her because of the countless years of mistakes that she's made after being told until I'm blue in the face, until my dad is blue in the face, to where I just have to be blood raw. I got to be all the way real. And the truth hurts. I don't curse. We be on text message, so it's not really any tone to it. It's no cursing. It's no name calling. It is just me putting a mirror in her face in the realest, most blunt way that I can. And so I realized, all right, I got to change that. So then guess what? I was talking to her again later and I changed it and I meant some words. I didn't say everything I could have said, didn't really speak the whole truth, just kind of danced and flirted around things. And she still got offended. And then in talking to other people, several other people said the same thing. This person is always the victim. So then that helped me realize, okay, it ain't just me. This person may just always be the victim. So this could be your best friend. This could be your mom. This could be your dad, your sibling, your spouse, or not your spouse, because this is for single people, your boyfriend, your girlfriend. But you still have to take personal inventory. You got to look within. You got to look at yourself and you got to see, is there any validity to this? And one of the things you can do, and it's hard because you got to find somebody you trust. So in finding somebody you trust, that may mean who you watch on YouTube, whose books you read, who you talk to all the time, if it's somebody in real life, and you go to those people and you get feedback. Like you have hour-long conversations and you get feedback. I'm able to pick it up very fast with people, like what their thing is, what their issue is. And there was something that I noticed, and I don't know if it leads to marriage, but one of the things that I noticed is that when I see a woman with like a perfect, in my opinion, perfect body that's natural, she typically doesn't have the face to match. Like I've never really seen a woman who I thought her face was a plus based on my programming and my personal constructs. I've never really seen a woman that I thought her face was a plus and her body was a plus. And typically, if I see a woman and her body is a plus, her face is like a C plus. And it just showed me that God really doesn't give us everything. And I remember a guy who one of my female family members was dealing with. This male was like the ideal height. And he had, to me, all symmetrical features. And a lot of women thought he was attractive. I mean, he was like 6'5" or something like that. And he was, kind of lighter skinned in a sense, like, and he had like braids, good quality hair, straight teeth, had money, had all normal symmetrical features. A lot of the ladies liked him. Well, this family member that was dealing with him told me that his man part was the size of her pinky. And I was like, you're lying. Stop lying. And she was like, Tony, I swear on everything, it is the size of my pinky. So then that reinforced to me that God doesn't give anyone every single thing. And then I remember working in the group home, and there was a guy who was African American, and y'all had a new term for it now, but the term back then was mildly retarded. Y'all told me a new term, specially abled, or It was a term y'all said, and I don't. This says intellectual disability, mild intellectual disability. There, and the reason why I said it, I'm not saying the word. There was a mom that wrote me one time telling me that that's not the word anymore. But I don't have anybody in my life, in my family, that has that situation. So I'm not updated on the latest terms. But their paperwork that we had to read is, it said mildly retarded. So y'all forgive me if that offend anybody. Intellectual disability. So, and the guy was like, he could have had some other stuff that was going on. And he they used to get to come together with each other. It was all men in the house. Well, the house manager, just being immature and probably breaking protocol, but I'm sharing this for teaching purposes. He was like, "You ever seen his thing?" And I was like, "No. How and why would I see his thing?" He was like, "Well, one time I bust in the room. I went in the room while him and such was doing their thing, having quiet time, they used to call it." And he said, "I kid you not, that thing is like the size of my arm." He was like, "I kid you not, that thing is like 12 inches." He was like, the other guy had to go to the hospital for stitches. And I'm just like, okay, that I could have lived without this. But that was that right there. Here's a gentleman who will never get to live outside of this home. He will have to stay in this home forever and have 24-hour supervision. But yet he had on his body what every man wishes they had. And so that again said to me, everybody doesn't get everything. And I started to process this and look at humans and realize, like, okay, sometimes the nicest people aren't the most attractive, and sometimes the most attractive people aren't the nicest. And then sometimes the people with the best face don't have the best body, and sometimes the people with the best body don't have the best face. So, but what makes up for it? It's like, if you don't have a college degree, but you have a very deep amount of personal experience or real world knowledge, it makes up for it. In an example, the sports psychologist, sports psychiatrist was released from an NBA team, and what you have to go through to become a psychiatrist. And I was hired for the NBA team without even a college degree. But what made the difference is they said Tony has a profound resume. He has a resume and he has the respect. He has the respect of these guys. These guys follow him on Twitter. They repost his content. Their star player followed me on Twitter and he would repost my quotes. So that made the GM who followed him on Twitter look to see who I was. And who was I to this guy that they're paying 20 or 30 million a year? And I didn't even know the gentleman, the player, but he followed me and he respected my message. And so that most likely played a role in me getting the job. And that's what I mean by that plays a role in you getting the job and you getting married, is when you identify your weak points, and if you can strengthen them, you strengthen them. If it's something that you have no control over, then you have no control over it. So now you have to identify the other attributes of you and you have to strengthen them. So like I was saying earlier, if a young lady has, and I got this term from women, I hear women say she has her dad's nose. And I would hear women say, "Man, that sucks." Like, she has like a beautiful woman's face, but she has her father's nose on her face. Man, that sucks. And so I would hear that, and I didn't make that term up now. For those of y'all who get mad, because one lady got mad in the comments talking about, Tony, that was very offensive because I have my dad's nose. And I looked at her, nothing was wrong with her nose. So just having your dad nose don't automatically mean something wrong with your nose just because you look like your daddy. But let's say it does obstruct your face. And I had a friend, a guy friend, who had a nose like that. And people used to bother him, and they used to call him um I can't remember, Nostradamus, because Nostradamus who predict the future. They'd be like, "Hey, boy, you Nostradamus." And they, "Hey, what your mama cooking for next week, bruh? I know you can smell it already." And it'll be like Monday, and like, "What your mama cooking next Wednesday? I know you can smell it already." And he just went through it. He was just laughing, all that. But then I heard this guy say one time, who this guy, I seen the video online. He said guys with the widest nose got the biggest thing. Now, I don't know, but this guy is from, who this video was, he's from that industry, the adult film industry. So I'm like, I don't know if that's true now. But who cares? And so what I'm saying is you still have to identify your strengths. So if there's something that makes you unique, okay, what else do you have? Like, what else about you, your personality? Is it and in a superficial sense, think about this. If if you're a woman and you say, "Yeah, I got these unique lips or this unique nose or these unique ears, but I'm finna build my glutes and I'm finna have the most amazing shape on planet Earth." So now one thing makes up for the other. If you say, "Hey, I have thyroid issues and I just can't always control my weight and I have to struggle with that," then you have to look and say, "Okay, am I going to be rude and nasty and mean? And am I going to take out the stuff that I have to go through and the treatment that I've received? Am I going to let that affect my personality? Or am I going to stretch and grow and work on myself and be like the person that when I'm talking to a potential spouse, they feel like they're in heaven on earth, like they feel like they've never felt in a conversation, the exploration of their mind and the attention that I'm paying and the quality time and the heart and the service and the love that I'm sharing with this person is washing them, renewing them, making them whole again. And that's what I'm going to be, because I can't determine or predict or control how someone else sees me holistically. And so what is special? So it's kind of like when you see a man who is considered short, and that is subjective. Like, I'm 5'10", and there are women who call me short. So 5'10" is short to some women, 5'10" is tall to some women, 5'10" is short to some men, 5'10" is tall to some men. So it's subjective. But I've seen some guys who I consider short, like 5'4", 5'5", and they are married. And in talking to their wife, the wife says, "He is so funny. He just made me laugh nonstop. Like, he was so funny." So guess what? If you have to be short as a man, you gotta be funny. Like, you can't be short and rude and nasty. Prime example is Kevin Hart. Another prime example is Kai Cenat. Like, that the streamer Kai, Kai. What woman at this point? Now, Kai he be showing some anger issues, and I don't know if he acting or if that's real. But if I was a woman, I would not want to be nowhere near him if he get mad. 'Cause he be having some anger issues, breaking all that stuff. I just see little clips. I don't watch streamers, but I seen little clips and he be acting a slap fool. And maybe it's his just little character, a little whatever. But him and Kevin Hart did a stream together, and I saw some clips from it. I didn't click it to watch it, but they look like the same height, and I saw them standing up. So, but he seems like a very lively personality. Like if you hanging with him, you're gonna laugh, you're gonna have a great time. He seemed like so. Guess what? That makes up for if a woman looks and says, he's a little too short. But if she loves his personality, it makes up for it. So the thing about it is with human connection is really just like a puzzle piece. And so you have to study sociology. Like you have to, not literally like the class in the books, but just society. You got to study psychology, and you have to understand how people connect, how people come together. And it's something to where it's not rocket science. So you're either first intriguing to the eyes or you're intriguing to the mind. For example, when I was dating, I took a different approach and I made myself stand out by not cursing, not drinking, not smoking. And every other guy that I knew didn't have that trifecta. If a guy didn't drink and he didn't smoke, he at least cursed. And everybody curses, so it's not the end of the world. But when a young lady would meet me and we would talk, and we would be talking for 30 minutes, an hour, and she would notice that I didn't curse, or it would come up and she would be like, okay, well, what do you look for in a woman, or what do you whatever? And I'll be like, well, I don't drink or smoke or curse. And so I kind of don't want a woman that does those things either. And this, what? You don't drink, you don't smoke, you don't curse? And then when we would start dating, I would I would write letters. And that wasn't really common because a lot of guys don't write. A lot of guys are very, straightforward or just talk game. And a lot of black guys, unfortunately, didn't have the education to write without spelling errors in our field. Of course, you got smart black guys out there. Don't take it the wrong way. But where I was, most of the black guys, because of our school system and coming from Jim Crow, not too long removed, and then systemic racism and all of that, you just kind of, especially if you're an athlete, you were kind of passed along. So like a Myron Rolle, I think that's his name, the NFL player who is like a neurosurgeon now, he's the only one in the history of the NFL. Like he's the only one who became a neurosurgeon. So it's not common to be extremely smart or to be even like kind of smart for a lot of athletes from inner city or poor neighborhoods. So when a woman would see me write, and then I was a poet, so the poem would have structure and flow and rhyme. So that's what set me apart. So, and I give you that real life example, not bragging on myself or talking about myself, because it wasn't nothing special. It just was different. So what it did is, if I wasn't intriguing to the eye, because I'm 5'10", and I used to have, I done had braces now, but I used to never smile. So I didn't have like this great personality, and I didn't have like, my teeth weren't like messed up, but they weren't completely straight either. And so, and they still not now, but now I could smile and I could talk and I could laugh and smile. But back then I used to never smile, because when I was coming up, you know how when your teeth grow in and you lose a tooth, and then you lose a tooth and then one grow in. So one growing up on top of the other one. and that one is right here. So if I smile too big, I had that shark tooth, what we call a shark tooth. So I used to never smile. And then I would half smile. I would just smile on the good side. And so it ruined my personality. So how some people be like, oh, Tony funny without trying to be funny. I didn't really have a personality before I could smile. But getting braces helped liven me up. That right there in itself is a lesson. Like if you need to get braces, or if you need to lose 20 pounds, whatever you need to do, when you do that, you're going to become a totally different person. Like you don't even realize the lack of confidence you have by what you're not working on, what you're not fixing. If you need to read more, if you need to learn how to speak better. I'm country, but for me talking for hours every single day, like I'm on video for like an hour a day at the minimum. That has helped me learn how to enunciate better. I'm moving my mouth so much that I'm learning how to say my words better. And I'm learning how to express myself better. And then not only am I talking, but I'm on the phone. So you have to work on you. And this is the thing that a lot of times people just feel like marriage and a human connection is out of their control. You have more control than you think, but you have to have self exploration. You have to get feedback about yourself. That's where life coaching or therapy comes in, to see your blind spots, to see your dark rooms, to see the areas, to identify your weaknesses. And then when you start to strengthen those weaknesses, and then you even strengthen your strengths, now you become more appealing and more attractive when you meet somebody. So how you look and how you carry yourself also affects your personality. So if someone was raised to be very chill and not care about their hairstyle or their fashion, that also may bleed into their personality and make them very dull and uninteresting and boring, because their hair and their fashion is very bland. So when you don't feel good about yourself, particularly like your hair or your outfit, then your personality will be bland, because you just talk to just blend in. But when someone is given the room to explore and have personality, they stand out, they jump off the page, and everybody wants to be their friend, because they're like, wow, you really did that with that outfit, or you really did that with whatever that is. And so you doing your thing. Like, wow, your music is amazing. Wow, your poetry is amazing. Wow, your art is amazing. Wow, whatever. But that's self-exploration. So you tap, wow, your business mind is amazing. Wow, your creations are amazing. Your innovativeness is amazing. You have to explore yourself, and you have to go from being the caterpillar, go in your cocoon, and then come out with your wings. And you have to be fully you. So when I had 50,000 subscribers, oh, I forgot to say, make sure you check the link in the description. Thank you so much to those of you who have invested in the channel, became a partner with me in the channel. The link is in the description. You'll see that it's still open. Click the link, read all the information. It's 3 different levels, and you'll get to see the levels, and you're able to get up to 3 at each level. So check it out. It is SEC regulated. This is a lifetime deal. The only way it's not lifetime is if when the secondary market is open after 12 months, if I go in and you want to sell and I buy it back from you. But everything is on there. So I don't want to misspeak here, because I don't want to be outside of the SEC regulation. So click the link in the description box. You're going to hear me say this hopefully every day, 2 times a day, and join us. Would love to have you a part of the team as an investor in the channel. Now, when I had 50,000 YouTube subscribers, and I was shooting one video a week, it was because I didn't feel comfortable showing my personality. And my oldest videos, I've hid them now or deleted them, but I have some. But even the ones you could see, I had ones before that to where I would just be here and I would be like, so what you have to understand about self-development is you have to work on you even when no one is looking. And you really want to make sure that you love yourself and that you're focusing on you. That's how I used to shoot my videos. Like how I just went right back up in that voice inflection. I had no voice inflection. It was just very monotone, very bland. And you know why? It's because I still had that shark tooth in 2011 when I started YouTube. I had that shark tooth and I didn't want to open my mouth too wide. And my bottom teeth was a little more crooked and I didn't want to open my mouth too wide. So, and I was self-conscious because everybody I talk to, they'll be like, man, you country, where you from? So I was trying to talk very low and slow so that I wouldn't show my full set of teeth and so that I wouldn't sound too country. And that just, it made for a bland video. And so I say that to say you have to get to know you, and you're going to realize. And now look, I have over 500,000 subscribers. I got the Blessed Tribe, the Blessed Business Tribe, got the Patreon, got a lot of supporters, got a lot of people that love showing up and watching the video every day. Even now have channel investors, people who want to be a part of the channel, invest in it, take part in the future, possible future earnings. And all of that happened just from me going and getting braces. I got braces at 32 years old, walking around with braces in my mouth for 2.5 years at 32 years old. Had to go through the teeth being split apart on the bottom as the brace was moving. Didn't go to the world's greatest dentist, so teeth still ain't perfect, but it did enough to help me build some confidence. And now I was able to step fully into myself. It made my marriage better because I could laugh and I could smile and I could be more open because I ain't even want my wife to see my shark tooth. She had never even really seen it. So imagine how dull that made my personality and how standoffish and stoic that made me. Now it feel like she used to be a little more attractive than I did when I became too. So I might need to go back to that stoicism. But I say that jokingly. But I say that to say that little change that you are just ignoring because your mom doesn't make a big deal about it, or your mom never made a big deal about it, or your dad never made a big deal about it, and they told you, oh, just love you. You ain't got to work on you. You ain't got to change nothing. You ain't got to. Well, that's true if it's not affecting your personality, if it's not affecting your ego, if it's not affecting how you talk to people, how you show up in the world. But if you realize that you're a little jaded or a little bitter because of this particular thing, or you're a little shy, or you're a little reserved, or you're a little overcompensating and too loud and all out there because of this thing, then you need to work on that thing. And that's going to make a difference. And then sometimes it literally just comes down to presentation. It literally comes down to presentation. Like I will see men who are single and it's just because they don't really brush their teeth. They have really yellow, gray, plaque-filled teeth. And it's like a woman doesn't want to kiss you. She doesn't want you to be intimate with you in everything that comes with marriage because you're not brushing your teeth or you're not showering. Like you smell bad. And you're not taking care of your body. Like you're not walking every day. You're not eating right. So a woman doesn't want to be in that situation with you. And I'll see that. And then sometimes I will see women and it's literally just your lace front is crooked. It's like you keep a crooked lace front, or you're not working on your edges, or you're not getting a wig that supplements your edges. And it's just it's the first thing that a man sees. So he's just seeing just no self-work. And so it's hard for him to see you and see that you're not taking care of your hair or what have you, or you're not updated on your fashion and trying to learn about fashion. And then right next to you is a woman who's doing those things. And you could be a far better person than her, but just because of her presentation. So it's just like when you go to the fruit, if you don't study it and you're not like this agriculture person, you're going to pick the prettiest one. But the one next to it that could be just slightly a little softer and may even have a couple bruises on it might be so sweet, so ready. But that old pretty shiny one, it get picked, and it's not even the best one. So you have to think about, do you want the diamond in the brown bag that you don't know that it's a diamond because it's in a brown bag? Or do you want to be the diamond in the Tiffany's box, which actually could be cubic zirconia? So the cubic zirconia, the lab diamond in the Tiffany's box, gets picked more often than the real diamond in the brown bag. And that Tiffany's box and that brown bag represents not just your presentation as a person, hair, skin, nails, which that's my next gummies we coming out with. So y'all get ready, the hair, skin, nails gummies, the collagen and biotin. Y'all get ready now. And it's not just the presentation, but it's also your personality. That also plays into your packaging. So your presentation isn't just your looks, I mean, it's also your personality, how you show up. And you have to be able to identify, and you got to talk to somebody, and you got to be able to hear the real truth. Because when you talk to somebody, they may say, listen, your mom let you talk too much, and you got too much of an opinion, and you always running off at the mouth, and you always got something to say about everything, and it is annoying. Like, I put up with it because I love you and you my best friend, or you my sister, or you my brother, but it is annoying. And a person who owes you nothing does not want to hear your opinion about everything. I'm about to say raggedy, but try not to go into my red flag. Doesn't want to hear your opinion about everything. Like, if you're not asked for your opinion, don't give your opinion. Like, it's just not kosher. It's not copacetic. And so they may just tell you, if you create the safe space for them to be honest with you. And it's like, hey, listen, you naturally attractive, but you got to do something with your hair. Like, you just not, I don't care about hair. So what about hair? Listen, who you want to marry cares, because they got to look at you every day. So it's not just about you. Stop being selfish. It's about other people too. It's not just what other people think doesn't matter. Whoever told you that told you a lie, because we get a job and we're able to sell our products and we're able to build a brand and we're able to do anything because of what other people think of us. If what other people think doesn't matter, then everybody would be a billionaire. But it's only certain billionaires because people chose them, chose their product, chose their service, chose their company, chose their software, because of what other people think. If we thought Amazon sucked, Jeff Bezos wouldn't be a billionaire. If we thought Microsoft products sucked, Bill Gates wouldn't be a billionaire. So our opinion matters. The same thing goes for marriage. So if you're rude, if you're mean, if you're nasty, if you're a jerk, if you're not taking care of yourself, if you're not taking care of yourself at the highest level, like, don't say, oh, I'm comfortable in my own skin. That's may not be enough. You may have to become more in your own skin, be better in your own skin. So, hey, this is a tough situation, but I want you to understand that you have more power than you think you have in this equation. And when you are doing absolutely everything right, like I have met women who they're doing everything right except for the hump on their head. And that's just a literal thing. Like, and when I say the hump on the head, I'm talking about the tracks. the braids is not small enough and low enough, and so the track is standing up too high. And so your face is amazing, your body is amazing, your income is amazing, but when a man sees you, he sees a cone head. And when he sees that cone head, he doesn't know if that's your actual head, or because he doesn't know about hair, so he doesn't know that's a track that's standing up too high, or your braids up under there are too thick, and so it's giving you that bump on the top of your head, and it don't look seamless. But then it's a woman right next to you to where hers is seamless and is flat. And so he just shoot a shot there. You smarter than her, you make more money than her, but he just shot a shot there because that right there just threw him off. And I'm serious, it be like a small little tweak. It'd be like a small little tweak. And it's like, but we get mad about it. I might have to turn off the comments because people just dealing with their own stuff, and they done been bullied about stuff, picked on about stuff, talked about, and then they gonna think, oh, Tony, you being a bully. No, I'm just giving you honest outside feedback of how this thing works. And sometimes you just have to invert the information, and you got to say, okay, if I'm walking or if I'm out and about and there's somebody of the opposite sex, and it's two people of the opposite sex, and one of them has this interesting feature or this interesting thing, and the person next to them doesn't have that, hairline, or doesn't have them shoes, or doesn't have that smell, or doesn't have that whatever, which one am I gonna be open to giving my number to? And it's just that simple. It's just that simple. So hey, I'm here for you. I'm gonna tell you, please do not hire me for coaching if you just want to be praised and you just want to hear what you want to hear. Sometimes people do that, and it's like, if you hire me, I'm going to be honest with you, and I'm gonna give you an honest outside opinion. And I'm gonna tell you, hey, you got to work on your body, or hey, you got to work on your fashion, or hey, you got to work on your personal hygiene. Hey, you got to work on your personality. You're too dull, you're too boring, or you talk too much. You keep cutting me off while I'm trying to talk. You're gonna run off anybody you meet, or you don't answer enough, you're not personable enough, you're too shy, you're too insecure. Like, you got to force yourself to answer with more than 4 words. Like, I'm gonna be honest with you. And then I would say, get maybe a couple other people that can be honest with you if you are single and you desire marriage. If you are single and you don't desire marriage, just stay out the chat. Like, this is a relationship channel. This is a self-development channel. So just stay out the chat. Like, it's okay. We will be okay. If every video is not going to be for you. So just please stay out the chat. Thank you very much. And time for my call. God bless you. Hey, make sure you click the link in the description, and we will talk soon.